Hello, welcome to Feasting on the Word for this week. It is January the 15th, 2024, and we are picking up the ancient rhythms of our faith as we settle into this. And maybe this is the first time we're doing it, maybe it's the 50th time we're doing it, but it's a wonderful way to center ourselves in Scripture and to link us into a rhythm that has been part of the church's foundation since the outset. How do we do that? Well, this is a way of making Scripture something that doesn't feel overwhelming. We can look at the Bible and just not know where to begin or how to approach it. What Feasting on the Word seeks to do is to take the tiniest piece of Scripture and let us live with it a little bit, to appreciate how this inspired Word continues to communicate across the centuries. We do that by hearing the same passage of Scripture 4 times with only silence interspersed between the readings. A minute following the first reading, a minute following the second reading, 3 minutes following the third reading, and then concluding with the fourth and final reading. That longer period of silence is intended as an opportunity for us to turn to God in prayer, a way of taking this passage that we have heard 3 times and being in conversation with God about how this passage is encouraging us, inspiring us, maybe even confusing us, any of those things. I find it helpful to have something to write with and something to write on nearby so that I can write down my impressions as the Scripture is read through those first few times. So without further delay, let's get into our discipline for this week of Feasting on the Word. Our passage comes to us from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1 through 5. For we know that, and this is the first translation we're using here is the New Revised Standard Version. So 2 Corinthians 5, 1 through 5. For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, a house not made with hands, eternal in the heavens. For in this tent we groan, longing to be further clothed with our heavenly dwelling. For surely when we have been clothed in it, we will not be found naked. For while we are in this tent, we groan under our burden, because we wish not to be unclothed, but to be further clothed, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. The one who has prepared us for this very thing is God, who has given us the Spirit as a down payment. Our second reading of 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1 through 5 from the Message translation. For instance, we know that when these bodies of ours are taken down like tents and folded away, they will be replaced by resurrection bodies in heaven, God-made, not handmade, and will never have to relocate our tents again. Sometimes we can hardly wait to move, and so we cry out in frustration. Compared to what's coming, living conditions around here seem like a stopover in an unfurnished shack, and we're tired of it. We've been given a glimpse of the real thing, our true home, our resurrection bodies. The Spirit of God whets our appetite by giving us a taste of what's ahead. He puts a little of heaven in our hearts so that we'll never settle for less. Our third reading of 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1 through 5 from the Contemporary English, and remember our longer period of 3 minutes of silence will follow. Our bodies are like tents that we live in here on earth. But when these tents are destroyed, we know that God will give each of us a place to live. These homes will not be buildings someone has made, but they are in heaven and will last forever. While we are here on earth, we sigh because we want to live in that heavenly home. We want to put it on like clothes and not be naked. These tents we now live in are like a heavy burden, and we groan. But we don't do this just because we want to leave these bodies that will die. It is because we want to change them for bodies that will never die. God is the one who makes all this possible. He has given us His Spirit to make us certain He will do it. Our fourth and final reading of 2 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 1 through 5 from the New International Version. For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands. Meanwhile we groan, longing to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling, because when we are clothed, we will not be found naked. For while we are in this tent, we groan and are burdened, because we do not wish to be unclothed, but to be clothed instead with our heavenly dwelling, so that what is mortal may be swallowed up by life. Now the one who has fashioned us for this very purpose is God, who has given us the Spirit as a deposit, guaranteeing what is to come. This is the inspired word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.